Okay, so let's dive right into this one. We've got these sources you shared, news reports, court documents, quite a bit of material here.
Yeah, fair amount.
And they detail this really striking alleged espionage attempt. So our mission today is basically to unpack what these sources tell us about the case.
Right. The case of Nathan Vilas Laatsch. He's what, 28?
Yeah, 28.
An IT specialist.
And he was working inside the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, in Alexandria, Virginia.
And the arrest happened back in May 2025.
Exactly. So let's get to the core allegation here, based on these court documents.
Okay, so the central charge is that Lash tried, or allegedly tried, to transmit classified information, national defense information.
And he was trying to pass it, supposedly, to someone he thought was representing a foreign government.
Right, and this is a really key detail right up front in the sources. The
Yeah.
person he thought was a foreign official, that wasn't who it was at all.
No, it was actually, according to the documents, an undercover FBI agent.
The whole time.
Yep.
Which tells you a lot about how this went down.
It really does. So how did this whole operation even start? What did the sources say?
Well, the court documents point to March 2025. That's when the FBI apparently received a tip.
A tip about what?
About an email. An email allegedly from Lash. And in this email, he supposedly expressed pretty strong disagreement with the current administration's values.
Okay, so some ideological discontent there, maybe.
Seems like it. And crucially, the email also included an offer, allegedly, to provide classified information.
Wow. Okay, so it wasn't just venting. It was an offer to act.
That's the allegation laid out in the sources, yeah.
Yeah, and the documents suggest this wasn't just a one-time email. This went on for a bit.
Oh, yeah, several months. The sources detail alleged communications between Laatsch and the undercover agent who he thinks is the foreign contact.
And during this time, he was actually, allegedly, taking steps to get information.
Apparently so. The sources mention him supposedly transcribing classified information while he was at his desk inside the DIA.
At his desk, inside the agency.
That's what's alleged. And then smuggling documents out of the workplace.
So physically taking things out.
Yes, and there's one really specific act described in these materials.
What's that?
He allegedly went to a park somewhere in Northern Virginia and left a thumb drive there.
A thumb drive just left in a park.
Yeah, for the supposed foreign official, the FBI agent, to pick up. And this drive apparently contains secret and even top secret information.
Leaving a physical drive in a park.
Mhm.
That feels almost quaint. Like something out of an old spy novel, not necessarily the high-tech stuff you always hear about.
It does seem a bit, yeah, old school. Makes you wonder about his thinking on, operational security there.
Or maybe he thought that was actually safer. Less traceable than digital transmission.
Yeah.
Hard to say just from this.
True. The sources also touch on why he was allegedly doing this, his motivation.
Right. What do they say about that? Was it money?
Money isn't the main focus in what's reported here. Instead, the documents state he expressed interest in getting citizenship.
Citizenship. From the foreign country he thought he was contacting.
Exactly. In exchange for providing continued information. He also apparently stated he didn't expect conditions in the U.S. to improve long term.
So it sounds like, based on these sources, it was less about a quick payout and more about a pathway out.
Yeah.
A whole new life somewhere else.
That seems to be the picture painted by the documents, yeah. A sort of pessimism about the future here and seeing this as an opportunity.
Okay, so that brings us toward the end of the operation, I suppose. The arrest.
Right. The sources state he was arrested on May 29th, 2025.
And how did that happen? Was it at his home or work?
No, apparently it was at a prearranged meeting location, a place where he allegedly intended to show up and hand over more classified documents to the contact.
Who was, of course, the FBI agent.
Correct. So caught right at the point of alleged delivery.
Based on the reporting, yeah. And the specific legal charge.
Attempting to transmit national defense information. That's the formal charge mentioned.
And he's set to appear in court where?
The Eastern District of Virginia. That's where the case is being handled.
Okay. Now, there's one more really, really interesting detail in these sources about the country involved, or the country he thought was involved.
Ah, yes. That's quite significant. The specific country, the sources say, has not been officially disclosed.
Right, they haven't named it.
But, and this is the key part, the Justice Department did describe it. They described it as a friendly or allied nation.
Friendly or allied, not, a known adversary or rival power.
Precisely. Which adds a whole other dimension to this.
It really does. So let's kind of step back and think about what this means for you, the listener, looking at these sources. What are the big takeaways?
Well, one thing that just leaps out from the documents is the irony, isn't it?
You mean where he worked?
Exactly. He was an IT specialist in the DIA's Insider Threat Division.
The very unit designed to prevent and detect this kind of thing. People on the inside trying to leak secrets.
It highlights the sheer difficulty of that task, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even the people charged with monitoring the threat can themselves, allegedly, become the threat. It shows that the challenge isn't just external actors hacking in.
No, it's also about vetting and monitoring the trusted insiders. A constant challenge.
Absolutely. And the methods described here, the FBI getting a tip, setting up an undercover op, communicating over months, arranging the drop, and the final meeting.
It shows that counterintelligence work in action.
It does. It's a glimpse into that long game, that careful process of investigating and, crucially, intervening before the information actually gets into the wrong hands, or at least the intended hands.
Yeah, before it reaches a real foreign power.
Yeah.
And then there's that point you raised, the friendly or allied nation description from the Justice Department.
That detail really complicates the picture.
It does, because it suggests that espionage threats, or attempted espionage, don't only come from countries we traditionally see as adversaries.
Right. It raises questions about, well, what are the motivations even for friendly nations? Why might they allegedly seek classified information illicitly from an ally?
Could be economic advantage, maybe political insights, technological secrets. Just trying to understand the allies' intentions better, perhaps, even if it's done improperly.
Could be any number of reasons. But it definitely implies that intelligence gathering, even between partners, can be complex and potentially cross lines.
Yeah, I mean, security agencies can't just focus their counterintelligence efforts on the usual suspects. The landscape seems broader, more complex, based on this description in the sources.
It certainly suggests a need for vigilance across the board.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the main points laid out in these sources we've been discussing.
Yeah.
We have an alleged insider threat, someone working within the DIA. It apparently started with an email expressing discontent and offering classified info.
Right. Then alleged ongoing communications with someone believed to be a foreign contact, but who was actually FBI undercover.
Actions like allegedly transcribing secrets at work, smuggling documents out, leaving a thumb drive in a park.
All leading up to an arrest during an alleged attempt to hand over more information.
And the charge is attempting to transmit national defense information, potentially to a nation described by the DOJ as friendly or allied.
And it's important to stress again, this entire narrative is built from the sources provided, the court filings and official statements detailing the government's allegations.
Absolutely. This is all based on what's in those documents.
No.
So maybe a final thought here, drawing directly from that source material for you to consider.
Okay.
What does an alleged attempt like this one tell us? Especially that specific detail reported by the Justice Department about the target nation being considered friendly or allied. What might that suggest about the changing nature of national security risks today and maybe the tangled web of international relationships, even among partners?
That detail about the friendly nation really does stick with you.
It certainly does. Something to mull over based on these reports.